Hi everyone, I'm Spiro. This week at Newsbud, our Russia expert covers the latest on the economic warfare front. Our China expert breaks down the current situation on China, North Korea, and much more. Our constitutional attorney documents the out-of-control police state. But first, be sure to contribute to our current fundraiser so we can continue to keep the doors open here at Newsbud. We are 100% people-funded, and we are counting on you for your support. Now, this fundraiser is in its last days and will be ending very soon, so be sure to pitch in today. You can also support Newsbud by subscribing to our website, and when you do, you are supporting real, independent news that is nonpartisan. Now let's take a look at the content Newsbud subscribers got just in the last week of a monthly subscription that costs less than $10. Now this week, the corporate media, which is funded by agenda-driven money, did not report what's really going on in Iran. Two of our Iran experts produced a truly amazing 2-hour presentation on Iran in regards to the current political unrest taking place in the country, as well as an in-depth look at Iran's history that is not being taught or reported in the West. Sibel Edmonds and Pi Ian provide the historical background and context necessary for a full and complete understanding of the often complicated and ever-changing geopolitical landscape. I'm sure you've all seen Iran in the headlines, and maybe you've noticed that all of a sudden everyone is acting like they are experts on Iran. Well, I personally am not. But Newsbud's founder and editor Sibel Edmonds and Newsbud's senior analyst Pi Ian truly are experts on Iran, among other topics.
And I want to start this whole discussion of what else is happening geopolitically that is missing from the U.S. media's, Western media's narrative. We're going to talk about Sistan, Baluchistan. We're going to talk about China, Russia. We're going to talk about a crumbling empire of the United States.
Because of what's happening between Iran and eastern states, the stakes are massive, and the stakes involve geopolitical realities, alliances, pipeline politics that have been perennial for decades now that are building steam because of the support of more powerful actors that are allied with Iran.
And the factions that came together actually during the entire protest, the 1 or 2 years that led to the change, regime change in Iran, a lot of people here in the US, in the West, they assumed that it was one faction, Islamic fanatics, they rebelled. Again, it's thanks to the US media. The only thing they have watched is the scene from the embassy and hostage taking and bearded guys saying, you know, Satan, US, etc. That's the only narrative they have provided. So what do you expect? And you go and look at the history books they are teaching here in middle school, high school. They are being
college
fed
and grad school. College and grad school.
Absolutely. And as you said, written by people who don't speak Farsi, who have never been in Iran. And they serve the interests. And I'm so glad.
They've both been there. Sibel used to live there and was there during the revolution. They both speak the language. They come from Iranian Persian backgrounds, so it's literally in their blood. Now, this is one of the most popular posts right now at newsbud.com, and if you take a look at the comments section on our site, you'll see that the Newsbud community members absolutely love this 2-part video that's 2 hours long, so much that we've been receiving many requests to make it available on DVD, which we may do, so stay tuned. But for now, the full presentation is available to all of our members at newsbud.com. Non-members can watch and share at Newsbud Vimeo on demand. The corporate media did not report the amazing Department of Defense whistleblower case exposing a massive fraud operation by one of the largest military contractors for the U.S. government. Sibel Edmonds had an amazing one-on-one interview this week with retired Lieutenant Colonel Tim Ferner, who served 27 years in the Air Force and blew the whistle on a massive fraud case that cost the U.S. taxpayers millions of dollars. Now, the two whistleblowers, Edmonds and Ferner, discussed the long and difficult road they traveled on their whistleblowing journeys, including the obstacles and retaliation they received that ultimately cost them their careers. Now, this is truly a must-see for everyone, especially for active duty and military veterans. In fact, Newsbud founder Sibel Edmonds has made a limited special offer for all active duty and U.S. military veterans who contact Newsbud through the contact page, where you will receive a complimentary, full-access 2-week subscription to all of the exclusive content we offer at newsbud.com.
Nobody has been held accountable in any whistleblowing case that I have ever known in this country in the past 16 years. Doesn't matter what agency. They are there to protect themselves, and all the cards have been set in such a way that there is no chance. You may win some kind of compensation and say, well, that was justice. It's not. That's what I was saying I want to see accountability.
There's either a tremendous amount of fraud that the government just doesn't care about, or there's something wrong with the criteria that they use in defining what a whistleblower is. And either way, none of the politicians seem to care.
The full 1.5-hour video is exclusively available for subscribing members. Non-members can watch it now at Newsbud Vimeo on demand. Now, this week, the media did not report the fact that 1.3 billion tax dollars went to the drone program just last month. One of our U.S. military veteran team members, Christian Sorensen, wrote an exclusive report for Newsbud documenting the U.S. military-industrial complex spending on contracts pertaining to drones. Now, this week on Newsbud's Geopolitical Report with Kurt Nimmo unveils the ugly truth that many Americans do not want to face concerning the influence over the current presidential administration from the neocons, as Trump is picking up where his predecessors left off, furthering the expansion of U.S. foreign military intervention and unending wars that are not only costing the U.S. taxpayers billions, if not trillions of dollars, but costing the ultimate price, which is the countless lives of millions of innocent men, women, and children. Everyone needs to see this video as Nimmo exposes that the hijacked Trump slogan, America First, does not mean what it once did. Now, the full video is available for Newsbud community members. Non-members can watch and share right now at Newsbud Vimeo on demand. Professor Philip Kovacevich's reporting and analysis for Newsbud is truly world-class. In this week's edition of Newsbud's Russian Newspaper Monitor, Professor Kovacevich covers the Syrian peace talks with analysis you will not hear anywhere else. Kovacevich also breaks down the escalation of the economic warfare perpetrated by the U.S. against Russia that will no doubt have serious ramifications, plus the latest efforts by the West to sabotage Putin's current run for re-election as Russia's president, and much more.
And yet, as I see it, the geopolitical fallout of these sanctions and their impact on European stability must not be underestimated. The push to isolate Russia and punish the ordinary Russians for Putin's anti-globalist and non-liberal foreign policy decisions shows no sign of diminishing. It is increasingly becoming more vicious because it is getting desperate. Together with the covert Gladio Sea operations run by NATO intelligence operatives and the corrupt ruling elites in certain Eastern European countries, the sanctions will bring the situation in Europe to a boiling point last seen in the 1940s. The question of war will enter the public consciousness loud and clear.
Exclusively available at newsbud.com, or you can watch it now at Newsbud Vimeo on demand. This week on Newsbud's China Watch, Peter Lee breaks down the latest moves by the U.S. to counter one of the biggest perceived threats and competitors on the world stage, China. As the U.S. and allied nations are making strategic moves not just militarily, but using the well-oiled propaganda machine that is the corporate media. Peter also breaks down the latest on the North Korea saga, China's war on Christmas, and much more. This episode and all of Newsbud's latest can be seen right now by subscribing members. If you're not a member, you can watch and share at Newsbud Vimeo on demand. Now, this week, the corporate media did not report on the heavy-handed abuse doled out by the U.S. police state that will leave you with a tag on your toe. But Newsbud's constitutional attorney John W. Whitehead did in this week's episode of Battlefield America. Whitehead documents how the shoot first, ask questions later militaristic training that our nation's law enforcement is receiving that's costing the lives of many non-criminal, law-abiding citizens, especially if they have a mental disorder or disability, as the police are not properly trained to de-escalate situations. Rather, their aggressive tactics lead to unnecessary violence and death with zero accountability, often leading to the person who actually called the cops being killed by the police.
Although new recruits typically spend nearly 60 hours learning to handle a gun, according to a recent survey by the Police Executive Research Forum, they receive only 8 hours of training to de-escalate tense situations and 8 hours learning strategies for handling the mentally ill. Otherwise, police are taught to employ tactics that tend to be counterproductive in such encounters, experts said.
The full episode is available now for Newsbud community members. Non-members can watch and share at Newsbud Vimeo on demand. Newsbud also offers our own aggregated news, and we call it Sibel's Picks. It's the best source for aggregated news online. Our community members love it. I reference it all the time. Newsbud's founder, Sibel Edmonds, handpicks each story herself, and you get all of this, the videos, the articles, the roundtables, the interviews, the investigative reports, and much more, exclusively available for Newsbud activist community members, so be sure to sign up today. And once you subscribe, your price is locked in and will never, ever increase. Now, we want to deliver the best to our activist community members, but it's only possible with your support. So be sure to subscribe or donate today. Thank you for supporting Newsbud.com. Stay tuned for next week's lineup.
A whole bunch of important news has broken today.
Assad has used chemical weapons before.
I assume similar activity is going on.
What does the president say when you look at history?
I don't think that's true.
Well, this is just another load of nonsense.
Picture is mixed.
It seems like the script has come from the above.
Spiro for Newsbud.com. We have breaking news this morning.
The single most important operation of the CIA worldwide.
And I'm talking about the criminals in the United States of America, American citizens.